Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Premier Investments in Wealth Management Program. My name is Doug Wagner, your host. And before I get to introducing the gentleman around the table with me today, I do want to remind you that it's important for you to have an understanding of whether you're ready for retirement. Do you know if you're ready for retirement? Do you know if you're ready for your child's education or whatever future purchase you may have that maybe you don't know about now, but you know you're probably going to have one? Go to premieriwm.com. Click Get Started. Just answer a few questions. They'll provide for you what's called a one-page Premier Vision document. From there, you'll have your blueprint, your roadmap, whatever you want to call it, so that you know whether you're ready for retirement. 3/4 of people in the United States don't know. Why don't you be part of that top 25%? You can start at premieriwm.com. Get your one-page Premier Vision document. And on top of that, you can even get an appointment online right there. With that one-page Premier Vision document, you get a free, no obligation consultation, and they'll get in touch with you to set that up. Or you can call 800-383-6590 to get your appointment with Premier Investments in Wealth Management, named the Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Starting off to my right, to your right, how does that work? Both of our rights.
Is this still right? Right to the right?
Exactly. Wealth advisor. He's an accredited investment fiduciary, certified financial planner, professional, and he's got over 10 years of experience in the investment industry. Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just to you, Doug. Now, I was going to comment. I think you've finally been listening to us after how many years you've been doing the show, and you picked up on the stat, the 4 out of 10.
Yeah,
1 and
exactly.
4.
I'm
talking about with the financial plans. I like
it. I'm getting there. Also with us today, a wealth advisor with over 30 years of experience in the investment industry. It's Casey. It's Jonas Everett down there. There's Casey. Jonas. Hey there.
Hey, Doug. How are you?
Good. I will not forget you the rest of this time. Don't you worry about it, okay? I got you.
I could be Casey for a few minutes. I could use the extra brain power, let me tell you.
Could you use the extra 6 kids?
only 5.
I don't know about.
Only
Okay.
5.
Sorry
I'm
about
sure
that.
6 is on the way.
I have no comment.
That other voice you hear is the president of Premier Investments in Wealth Management. He's a wealth advisor as well, accredited investment fiduciary with over 21 years of experience in the investment industry. He is the big kahuna, Roger Abel. Nice shirt.
Thank you, Doug.
It's
actually, I picked it up for St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day camouflage.
Yeah, nice.
But I thought it would just go good today. I don't know why.
Yeah, that works. Works completely well. It's good to see all of you again, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch and to listen. It's important that you head over to premieriwm.com to find out a little bit more about what they can do for you at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. You know, a lot of times in business, you take a look at what goes on, and you have key person insurance, and you have the way you stack the deck as far as the executives that you have. And you come in. I worked with a Fortune 200 company. Now it's probably Fortune 100 or more company. And that was one of the first things that they did when they said, we're going to get listed on the NYSE, is we need to create a better succession plan. This is something that retired couples need a succession plan too. Not just Warren Buffett, because he was most recently famously introduced a succession plan, Roger.
Yes, he did.
An Iowa guy, no less.
Greg Abel.
Yeah?
He has a good last name.
Yeah, that he does.
No relation.
No kid? Okay.
I think that was already in the works, and we've already known who the successor was going to be. I think he was just being groomed to continue to run the company in the way in which they have in the past. But I think, there's some parallels between what Warren Buffett is doing and building a succession plan before he needs one, and what can be done at the individual household level too. I think we see it all too often where you have a household dynamic where you have one individual who we'll call the financial driver,
right,
and the other one is the passenger. And it could be vice versa for how things in the house work, right? Maybe we have the wife who's a financial driver, but the husband takes care of everything else.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that individuals should think about. How do we set up a kind of succession plan for our family if something were to happen unexpectedly?
Okay. So in the husband and wife level, I mean, even I guess the catastrophic stuff, it's funny because there's one of my new favorite podcasts to listen to is done by young couple I know. I say somewhat young couple. It's Steve and Jenny. You may know him. They're friends of Elias's. He officiates along with Elias. And they were talking about the things you need to do at 50 years old. And this is something, Jonas, that he was talking about very quickly within that is like, hey, you hit 50, you need to, and he basically said, have a succession plan.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the Everett situation, Roger's exactly right. I mean, I run the financial ship, but Jody is really the healthcare expert and the spiritual and the nurturing captain and
Target shopper.
Yeah, kind of. We're trying to merge the financial and the healthcare stuff.
Yeah.
Together, but it is kind of difficult to do that. I had to take our youngest daughter to the doctor, and the doctor was kind of chuckling at me, asked me for a list of medicines, and I don't know, Advil. I give her an Advil. I give her a melatonin at night, and so we had to call mom for the list of medicines. So yeah, somehow you have to have a succession plan to merge that in the event that one spouse walks out of life.
Let's talk a little bit about this because, I mean, again, it doesn't matter whether it's the big companies or the small companies. Because Casey, I know a lot of farm families, for example, a lot of people in rural areas. The wife is the one that runs the business aspect of it. The man is the one that runs everything out in the fields.
The operations piece.
Exactly. But then you come inside, and then somehow he's the one that does the retirement stuff too. It's really a strange way.
Well, again, I think it really gets back over to, and I would say that the agriculture sector maybe is uniquely positioned, although not really. Simply from the standpoint that, really, if you look at a lot of the ag, it is small business ownership more so than anything else. That's ultimately what it comes down to. But really, it's about trying to make sure that you have that understanding of the ownership in those particular areas. Like who understands, who's actually responsible for what. And it's not to say that one way that one outfit does it is better than another, but it's what works for that individual set of household and who actually delineates or has that particular responsibility as far as the ownership piece of it.
Okay.
And again, that's kind of where we see those parallels over into the business world, right? Who is ultimately responsible for the running of the company? Well, it'd be the CEO in that particular instance. So do we have a CEO of the household?
Right.
Do we have somebody who's working on that responsibility level of or understanding those different pieces and maybe looking at delegating as well as another option on that side too.
And this is something, Roger, where if you have a husband and wife that they're in a situation where maybe they both work full time, maybe they don't have the bandwidth to be able to do some of these things. That's where folks like you as wealth advisors come in, because then you can outsource things like not the decision making, but the ones that help take care of the planning and the execution of it once they approve it.
Well, if you start to think about a succession plan, it's really setting the framework for the future.
Yeah.
And it's delegating, number one, knowing whose responsibility is whose. So the first thing is who's responsible for X.
Right.
In the Everett household, Jody does the healthcare.
Yeah.
Great. Well, if something happens to Jody, now who's going to take that over? Okay, Jonas does the investing. If something happens to Jonas, who's going to take that over? Probably someone at Premier. When we meet with somebody to put together a financial plan, it's part of the discovery process. We're trying to figure out who's doing what. And one of the cool things that all comes together when you do a financial plan is you're getting an inventory of your financial, snapshot, really, where you are today. Once you have the snapshot, then you can figure out, hey, who are we going to delegate this to if something happens? In my house, I have a blue book with every financial document, and it's in a safe.
Right.
And my wife knows if something happens to me, go to the safe, get the blue book, call the contact people in there. They will help you because my wife doesn't do any of this.
Right.
So I've got my banker's number in there. She clearly knows where to find the people at Premier.
Right.
She has the attorney's phone number, the insurance person's phone number, and it gets some help walking through. So we're figuring out, hey, if something happens to me early on, unexpected, how do we figure out how to keep the household going and manage all
right?
But
I think you kind of talked about a little bit there in there too. But that succession plan is about trying to make that transition as easy as possible for the people who are left behind.
For sure. And, I'm specifically referring to death.
Right.
There should be a succession plan too. That's a non-death succession plan, because unfortunately we are all going to get to the point where we're not capable to make our own financial decisions, our own health related decisions. And the sooner we can relay that to the people who are responsible for that, the better off we are. I read an article. It was about a doctor, and he said, I'm not going to do any medical procedures after 75. He made it clear to his family. After 75, no major medical procedures.
On him, he's not going to have everything done on his body.
Because he sees after 75 is that, we're extending longevity, but not necessarily extending quality of life.
Okay.
So those are different things. So in his advanced directives, hey, after 75, we're not getting treatment for cancer. We're not, doing major surgeries. It just is what it is.
Right.
And those are things that you got to lay out in advance, but that's a living succession plan versus a death succession plan.
Right. And when you're talking kind of in this realm, I mean, again, to your point, there's really kind of two different, that incapacity planning. I'm unable to make my own decisions. Now in the legal realm, it means that we have a medical power of attorney. We have a financial power of attorney, because those are two very different things covering different areas of that document. And that is really even an entire part of building all of that stuff out when it comes over to a comprehensive plan, even when it comes over to the financial piece.
So I want to ask Jonas a question. In your household, Jonas, have you set the date in which the roles change?
Absolutely not.
I mean, that's what I think most people haven't done. They haven't actually set a date where, like, hey, this is when I'm going to give up control and let some other people make decisions for me.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great that's a great idea. Have a date, succession planning date of some kind. One of the challenges that we have is we're both uninterested in our areas that we need to succeed at. So Jody's uninterested in finances, and I'm very uninterested in what prescriptions the kids take and what they're for. So again, back to like I think Doug and you said earlier, Roger, that delegation. Having that list, knowing I know who the doctors are. Jody knows that the Everett, if something happens to me, the Everett financial plan has to be on cruise control for somebody that is uninterested, just to take over and to actually have a professional to work with. So I'm a little biased. I like to work with professionals on my taxes, on my legal stuff, even on my airplane flights. On my vacations, I still work with professionals. And I'm kind of old school that way. I like a person to walk me through, their ideas as a professional as well.
Well, but I think what you're applying over on there is that framework we talk about quite often, right? The time, knowledge, and desire. You have the time, you have the knowledge, you have the desire. It's probably something you can maintain. If you're missing any one of those three things, then you offsort it. Clearly, you don't like buying your own plane tickets.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Or flying your own plane, for that matter. And who can blame you? My name's Doug Wagner. I'm here with Roger Abel, Jonas Everett, as well as Casey Mushrush, Premier Investments in Wealth Management, the names of the program. And, the nice thing about this is that they're available to you right now. They've got a whole repertoire of videos and audio. You can go to the website at premieriwm.com, and you can download a lot of information, too. They're open 24 hours a day at premieriwm.com, as a matter of fact. Just click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you what's called a one-page Premier Vision document, and then they'll schedule an appointment with you absolutely free. You can go over it with them, and then at that point, they'll hand it off to you. Now, if you choose to invest alongside them with them as wealth advisors, then that's great. Get in touch with them, though, to find out if this is what is right for you. PremierIWM.com is the website for Premier Investments in Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. Call for your appointment at 800-383-6590, or you can just make it at PremierIWM.com. We were talking a little bit earlier about the Blue Book. I'm going to go back to you, Jonas, about this. The Blue Book that Roger was talking about in his household. It has almost like a White House nuclear football kind of feel to it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I mean, it's like one of the most important things that you could have in order to make sure. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how important that is and have you go off of that, if you will. I was looking for something at the station that I absolutely, positively had to have, and I couldn't find it because they remodeled the station. And in doing so, they took my equivalent of the blue book, and I literally was going from room to room. How important is communication amongst all of these things in order to make sure that you are getting information transferred responsibly and quickly as possible?
Well, I think, yeah, back to couples succession planning, like Casey said, you have to take ownership. Somebody has to, and you have to get involved. The advantage that the Everetts have, I guess, is that level of communication where we do need to do a better job writing things down. But I really like this framework in the outline. You have ownership, governance, transfer, and then management. I'm not looking forward to the day where Jody transfers the healthcare responsibilities to me.
She won't.
But maybe I'll. It was Mother's Day weekend. Maybe I'll next Mother's Day is a good date where I'll take the week. I'll take the kids to their doctor's appointments, and we'll start with these many levels of ownership.
Well, but I even think within there, right? And we see this actually happening naturally in a lot of different families. The ownership of those healthcare decisions at some point probably transferring to the kids. So when they're of age, when they can actually do the things over on there is that transfer, that shift of responsibilities over to them. Now, maybe at some point in time in a couple of years or something like that, maybe 3 years, now they're going to make your healthcare decisions. And so it kind of comes full circle, right? So, but I do think that it is kind of an interesting, as far as like that transfer can, especially in that family dynamic, it really doesn't have to be just between spouses. But we can also be looking over upon that intergenerational, like what are going to be these triggering factors or these things that may cause either a planned, which is kind of what we're talking about, or an unplanned transfer of those decisions. Now, even with the unplanned transfers, we can still put together mechanisms to make sure it happens cleanly, right? I tell clients all the time, life is a lot easier if we don't have to go get a judge to go sign off on a document down at the courthouse. If we can avoid that by putting the appropriate mechanisms in place, let's go ahead and do that in the first hand. And it also helps, just alleviate a lot of that family strife that can come up when there's already a very high level of stress that's happening in that family situation because something has happened. And so if we can alleviate a portion of that burden because we already know how that transfer is going to occur, it makes things go a little bit more smoothly.
Roger, I'm going to give it a concrete example of that. My father, his early 80s, my mother in her early 70s. He was her caretaker. She had dementia, Alzheimer's. He was a very loving, caring man, very good, did the best he could, but overdid it many times to the point where he had a stroke. And that's when my sister, who is a healthcare professional, moved back to town because she knew that she was the one that needed to come in to take care of business at that point. Nothing was ready to go. My dad had worked with professionals in taxes and with finance, wealth advisor, things like that. But there was no there to make that transition after his stroke until he was better. And my sister had to use the court system in order to go in and access control of everything. It's a lot easier to get this done before rather than after. It can be difficult for parents to give that up to their children, though.
Well, you don't have to give it up when you can still make the decisions. You just need to do some estate planning, which I think is what Casey was alluding to. And I think I teach a class for a couple hospitals to their employees for the foundation. And one of the things we talk about during this section on estate planning is that there's a lot of fallacies around what this is. It's really just getting your legal documents in order. It doesn't have estate planning's for everybody, not just rich people. It's literally just you giving your money and your decision-making power direction. That's all it is. So everybody should have an estate plan, whether you have nothing or a lot. Now, if you have a lot, maybe it evolves. But jokingly, I told Jonas, you won't be making the healthcare decisions because likely Jody's going to stay home and take care of you. And it kind of leads into the next part that we want to talk about in the succession plan is that, one of the things that females, particularly out there, they typically outlive men, should be prepared for their what we'll call second retirement. And people are like, what's that? It's the retirement after they take care of the husband and he's no longer here.
Right.
If you go around this country and go to a nursing home or look at people north of 80 years old, and are there more widows or widowers? There's likely more widowers over age 85. And it's just a longevity situation that we
Nursing
talk about.
homes are full of little old ladies.
Well, I always tell people, us men, we don't have the will to stay there. We're like, we're good, uncle, give up. And, but it's true. If you go to any care, whether it's assisted living or nursing home or any type of care facility, it's dominated by females, especially from a longevity standpoint. And what really happens, and I've seen recently, is that you'll have a husband and wife family group that goes into assisted living or goes into one of these, not care centers, but we'll call them retirement centers.
Right.
So that when they need care, they're already there, and they kind of transition them from retirement to assisted living to nursing home care.
Right.
And I see that a lot more. I know my wife's grandparents did that.
I have a brother who did the exact same thing. At 60, moved onto the campus, moved into the house, and that's going to pay for everything all the way.
My grandparents did it, and it worked really well for them. Is it the solve all for everybody? No, but the nice thing is, it is nice for the family because there is a plan in place of how we're going to take care of ourselves versus, well, now we can't take care of ourselves and we have a house to sell and furniture to move, and just it's less upheaval. And I think as people age, the more stability they have, the more they thrive.
Jonas, another thing with this too is to remember that in addition to what you all have been talking about, there's more older women in care centers than there are older men. They're going to live a lot longer. And again, another thing that I came upon recently, this idea is that if you were born even 30 years, like I'm 1967, if you were born in 1947, your life expectancy is still a lot shorter than mine in 67, which is shorter now than my kid who just turned 35.
Yeah, I actually carved that out in the retirement plan. I'm seeing a lot of widows' retirement plans where they're actually moving to their favorite their favorite kids' town.
Yeah.
And you have to actually plan for that, and there has to be some resources involved. Back up to our first meetings, I have a lot of gentlemen show up. They're perfectly savvy. They're very knowledgeable. They're very eager to work with us. But guess they forgot one thing.
Their wife.
They forgot their spouse at home.
Oh.
So we can't do a financial plan for them because it's just that important. But what I'm seeing is a niche there, Doug, is the widows. They end up moving closer to family,
Right.
and that's a big transition, and that's something that I plan for now. I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, that makes sense. Premier Investments in Wealth Management. If you go to premieriwm.com, you'll find out more about what they can do for you and your family. They were named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. premieriwm.com. While you're there, click Get Started. Answer a few questions. You'll be provided with a one-page Premier Vision document and an opportunity for a free, no obligation consultation. They'll walk you through this document so you can find out, do you know if you're ready to retire? If you're single, if you're married, do you know if you're ready to help provide for your kids' education or whatever the future may hold? Because we know there's a lot of volatility out there. And if you don't have a financial plan, this is your opportunity to have one and have the professionals take care of it for you. premieriwm.com. Make your appointment there or call 800-383-6590. My name is Doug Wagner. Until we meet again, for Dr. Casey Mushrush,
Just you, Doug.
Jonas Everett, and Roger Abel, have a great week.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments in Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific, individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Forbes' Best in State Wealth Management Teams ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firms. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.